Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central. How's everybody doing this evening? Hope you had a good day. Hope you made lots of money on your day today. Well, we're here with you one more time, one more again to help you win. Let's go ahead and get it on. You know what we need you to do, of course. We appreciate all those people who have signed up already and subscribed to the Tubular Black Facts channel, but we still got to say it every single time as if it was a daily rhyme. Please make sure to give us a like and a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, and then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel right below. Please make sure and do that. Now, while you're doing that, we're going to go ahead and get this party started with our proverb of the day. Let's see what we've got for a proverb of the day. We do 2 every day. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be doing a ton of key Swahili proverbs. All right, here goes one here. This is an easy one. Elimu haina mwisho. Elimu haina mwisho. And that means education is forever. So, lifelong education. Elimu haina mwisho. Yep, and there we go. Education is forever. Or, another way to say that is, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Right, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Don't waste your mind, because you're just wasting somebody's time. All right, so we had started reading Never Caught, the story of Ona Judge, an enslaved African who escaped the clutches of George and Martha Washington. That's what we're reading about today. And we're going to continue on with her story. We're getting to the good part, y'all, because I feel it coming on. I feel it coming on. She's about to get away. Break on out of this joint. Here we go. Let's see what happens today. Oh, it's sucky now. Sucky now. Talking about a free black community. The truth was that the Washingtons had no real chance of keeping Ona and the other slaves ignorant of the changes in the country. Too much was going on. There had been a crack in the nation's soul as soon as the first abolitionists had spoken up about the immorality of slavery. By the time Ona moved to the president's house in Philly, there was no way to stop the spread of the anti-slavery movement. At the same time, policy improvements like the Gradual Abolition Act did not mean that people's mindsets changed. Racism was still real, just like it is today. Discrimination against people with dark skin remained as ugly and as common on the streets of Philly as it was in Charleston, South Carolina, or New York City. Slaves like Ona Judge had to constantly assess for themselves the risks of pursuing freedom against the known reality of their lives as property. One of the people who knew this firsthand was the pastor, Richard Allen, a free black man who lived in Philly and who is rightly considered another founding father of America. Born enslaved and owned by Benjamin Chew, that's C-H-E-W, the Chief Justice of colonial Pennsylvania. Richard had been sold to another family in Delaware when he was still a child. There, his family had been split up, his mama and 3 siblings going to one white family and Richard going to another. From sunup to sundown, Richard worked in the wheat and flax fields of his owner, Stokely Sturgis. From sunup to sundown, Richard would often be found listening to the sermons of traveling preachers, white and black. When he met a preacher named Freeborn Garretson, perhaps in the late 1700s, Richard believed that he had received his own calling from God. That's right. He eventually adopted the teachings of the Methodist Church and its philosophy that charitable actions and hard work would improve one's life. Richard also believed that religion itself could form a bridge of understanding between races if he could just prove to white folks that slavery itself was not sanctioned by God and therefore was punishable during the afterlife. He was certain that most white people would decide it wasn't worth the trouble. That's what he thought. By 1780, Richard had made a deal with Sturgis to buy his freedom for $2,000. And he made payments over the next 5 years. He paid off this debt early by working so hard at chopping wood that it was only with difficulty I could open or close my hands. Quote, unquote. By the time Ona moved to Philly, Richard Allen was recognized as a leader of the free black community. In order to earn money, Richard transitioned from being a woodcutter to being a shoemaker or cobbler and a chimney sweep. In his free time, he was a preacher and a community leader. Today, Richard is best known as the founder of Mother Bethel, a church on the corner of 6th and Lombard Streets in Philly, whose formal name is the African Methodist Episcopal Church, or the AME Church. This church stands on the oldest parcel of ground continuously owned by black people. Today, the AME Church has almost 3.5 million members. This was all due to Richard, who purchased the property after being forced too many times to sit in the balcony of the traditional white churches. The church became popular among the freed black communities. In the 1800s, Richard would become a bishop. In the 1790s, he was leading the charge of freed, powerful, modest, but unafraid black men and women. The church was just 7 blocks south of the president's house. Richard Allen himself lived at 150 Spruce Street, about 4 blocks away. Absalom Jones lived at 165th South 3rd Street, less than 3 blocks from the president's doorstep. Despite its size and status, Philly was an eminently close-knit city. It would have been impossible for Ona not to have known about these influential free black leaders. It would also have been impossible for her to talk to them, at least publicly. If the Washingtons knew she was communicating with free black leaders, they could banish Ona to Mount Vernon or worse. Ona did not want to do anything to jeopardize her situation with the Washingtons, at least not yet. If and when she wanted to pursue freedom, it would be her decision. She was too aware of the nightmarish consequences that could happen. Freedom was still a far away golden ring for Ona. She had only to look at the lives of 3 of her fellow enslaved enslaved Virginians from Mount Vernon. Take Giles. He had been a loyal postilion for George Washington since the mid-1780s. During the spring of 1791, Giles was injured so severely that he was instantly returned to Mount Vernon. But he could not recover well enough to return to his old job. Instead, like Hercules after him, he was downgraded to the lowest possible position. The enslaved had to work even if they were injured, but now instead of being the horseman for the president, he'd have to make brooms or dig clay to make bricks. Paris was another example, but in this case, Paris showed Ona what would happen if she rebelled against the Washingtons directly. Paris had accompanied George on his 3-month tour of the South. When Randolph at first told Martha about his slaves claiming freedom, but Paris had hit his limit. He was sick of having to pretend to be grateful for being a slave to the president. George wrote a letter to Tobias Lear describing Paris's behavior. Here's a quote from George Washington's letter. Paris has become so lazy, self-willed, and impudent that John, the coachman, had no sort of government of him. On the contrary, John says it was a maxim with Paris to do nothing he was ordered and everything that he was forbid. End quote. Paris was ordered to return to Mount Vernon. He lived there 2 more years before he died of an illness. Christopher Shields was also sent home to Mount Vernon with orders not to return to Philadelphia. Historians do not know why. It's possible that Christopher's ability to read and write, had made the first family a little bit uneasy. One of them educated niggers. With the Washingtons' increasing need to keep their slaves in the dark about laws that could bring them freedom, Shields would have been considered a threat. The fact was that despite the debate and despite the number of freed blacks in Philly, slavery was so deeply rooted in the U.S. that it seemed unchangeable. George Washington himself got into the fray when he signed into law the Fugitive Slave Act. Oh, really? I didn't know that. In February 1793, according to this act, a slave owner or someone acting on behalf of the slave owner could legally capture a runaway slave and force him or her to appear in front of a judge. If the slave owner was able to provide written or oral proof of ownership, the judge could order the return of the fugitive to the slave owner. The law also stated that anyone who helped a slave run away or prevented the capture of a fugitive would be imprisoned and fined $500 and could be sued by the slave owner. $500 in 1793 was approximately the same as $12,000 today. So this is a serious fine we're talking about here. Southerners were thrilled with this new law. Yeah. Oh yeah. They had to be just rubbing their hands together about this law, especially because it was a federal decree, which meant that it didn't matter if a particular northern state had outlawed slavery. This federal law overruled any state law. Speaking of state rights or states' rights, many northerners were dismayed, if only because this law was a reminder of the growing divide in the country over the issue of slavery. This divide was reflected in the congressional vote for the law itself. It did not pass unanimously, another ominous sign that signaled the internal divisions in the country. As a response to the Fugitive Slave Act, many northern states passed personal liberty laws. Requiring that any black person accused of being a fugitive slave was entitled to a trial with a jury. The personal liberty laws could also be used by northern states to accuse a slave owner or his agent of kidnapping an escaped slave if the recapture of the accused fugitive was not done through appropriate measures. The right of all citizens to a trial by a jury is the due process established in the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The southern states argued that the federal law protected their own property rights because in this case, the property was a human being. In the end, the fighting did not stop, and all potential runaway slaves were aware of how much danger they would be in if they chose to chase their freedom, chasing the train. At this point, Ona may not have been contemplating escape, but like most slaves, she had a constant fear of being sold away to an owner in place without any familiar faces nearby. In other words, Ona would have still been worried about being sold down the river. If she'd have been worried about that, She knew from the eviction of Giles, Paris, and Christopher Shields from Philadelphia that this could happen at the drop of a hat. In short, Ona had the same choices that she'd always had, which is to say, she didn't feel as though she had a choice. All she could do was work harder and work faster and carry on. But nothing was standing still, least of all Philadelphia. In 1793, George Washington and the American colonists had sparked a series of uprisings around the globe. Revolution was in the air. Revolution was in the air. A slave revolt in Haiti had led to the only slave rebellion in the Western Hemisphere where the slaves won. In France, King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette both went to the guillotine that year, and with their executions would go the French monarchy. In the sweaty summer streets of Philly, abolitionists glared at slave owners in town for a congressional meeting. Slave owners glared back. No one paid special attention to a ship from the West Indies that had just docked 5 blocks away. They should have. The unwanted cargo that had stowed away on this ship was about to unleash the biggest panic the city had seen, and everyone would be affected. Now, I wonder what that could be. Well, we'll just have to return tomorrow night and find out. In the meanwhile, we hope that all of y'all go to sleep tonight with a great big smile. We need all you little children out there to put your little heads down on your little pillows, on your little bed, close those your eyes, and wait for that big old sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, that's when you know it's time for you to rise and shine, old chillin' of mine. In the meantime, all you adults out there, keep your eyeballs glued to the Tubular Black Facts channel. We got good things in store. We got plenty more good things for you in store. So pay attention. We got specials coming up on Saturday and Sunday. I can't tell you what they are because they're a surprise, but we got some good things for you in store. So tune in tomorrow at 12 o'clock high. That's EST, Eastern Standard Time. So make adjustments if you're in the CST or the PST. What else? Oh, and please, don't forget to always do the needful, meaning that you need to go ahead, give us a like, a thumbs up, and if you don't mind, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel below, and then help us spread the word. Tell all your friends and your family that we're right over here so they can join me and you as you keep your eyes glued to the Tubular Black Facts channel. Peace out now, without a doubt. We'll see y'all tomorrow at noon. Well, you may not, you'll see us, we might not see you, okay? Because we always try to take a break on the weekends, so we'll have something, it'll be recorded, look for it, it'll be good. Peace out without a doubt, y'all. Enjoy. Oh, and let me say good night to Shula. We see you over there, Shula. And I see Brother Imhotep over there. Good to see you again as well.